Hello and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today's focus, we're going to talk about building your practice's online voice and brand so that you can make more money. And our guest today is Anthony Maritato, who has created multiple online channels supporting B2B and B2C worlds. And he not only has a successful multi-location physical therapy practice, Total Therapy Solutions, but also a powerful YouTube channel focusing on total knee replacement care with over 70,000 subscribers. And then he also has a B2B YouTube channel teaching PT, OT, and speech therapists how to bill Medicare correctly. So Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Neil, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So Tony, you do so much. I almost don't know where to start. I'm just wondering, did I miss anything in my intro there?
No, I think it's always helpful for the audience to kind of understand who's talking. So just a quick background. I am a licensed physical therapist. I'm in my clinic right now. Like patients are going to come in about an hour. So I still have boots on the ground. I'm still treating patients, but I didn't start as a physical therapist. I loved physical therapy. I had a private practice that I started from nothing down in Sarasota, Florida. I had a personal training studio, recruited a PT. Real quick, we went from 1,800 square foot space to 5 locations across 2 states. We had a team of clinical staff, marketing staff, billing staff. We really learned how to grow and build a business. And then sometime in that process, I realized the PT that I originally recruited, I want to marry her. And she became my wife. She is now my wife. She talked me into going to PT school, getting my master's degree, which I did around 2005. And so then, like a lot of things, we said, hey, we're going to consolidate. We're going to focus on family. Mm-hmm. We went from 5 clinics to 3, then down to 2. And so along the years, we learned a lot of lessons, and I appreciate you giving me the chance to share some of the mistakes we made so other people don't have to.
That's a fascinating story. And I've met some other practice owners who started a little similar to you where, and I think it's a really interesting approach because typically it's the other way around. We go to PT school, we be a PT for a while, we get kind of tired of treating, we think we can do it better, and then we open up our own place. Whereas in your world, you started as a business entrepreneur, starting a PT clinic, running that, and then going back and becoming an actual clinician, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I love that model. Obviously, it worked for me. But one of the things that people don't talk enough about is when you're a PT first, you go into business wanting to be the PT. I think a lot of your listeners, they're really good at what they do. They probably have patients asking to work with them specifically. And so when we started, we were like, we could leave the hospital, we could do it on our own, see fewer patients, make more money, have more freedom. But if you don't learn the business side of it, or nowadays, if you don't learn how to monetize your time in different ways, you can't afford to be a great therapist in the current environment. The reimbursement isn't there to support that. Mm-hmm. So that was the biggest thing for us, over the years. I just looked at my reimbursement on average today. I'm a good 30 to 40% lower per visit today than I was in 2001, 2002 when we started. Mm-hmm. That's a completely different business in this environment.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's difficult to change with the times sometimes with that. And I remember when I first was a PT back in the late 90s, you could charge like $30 for a hot pack, right?
Yeah.
But Medicare soon got onto that and squashed people charging for hot packs and cold packs back in the day. But that's the way it was, right? So the world changes, evolves, and price points change, reimbursement changes, and I think we will talk about a little bit later about some of the things that we see clinics doing that you're doing to kind of pivot in this time of reimbursement change, right? And I think it's just something we're seeing as a whole across the entire healthcare spectrum in how patients interact and leverage insurance and how the insurances have high deductibles and all that kind of other stuff, right? So we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I think it's really, again, looking at your model, like what did you find building your practices from the mindset perspective of the business owner, like obviously you had compassion to be there with the patients, but you didn't actually treat them. So were you able to look at things a bit more objectively from a business standpoint when you're running that way?
Yeah, that's the huge competitive advantage when you're not a therapist, is that you can appreciate therapy for what it is, but you're also not so deep into it that you can't see above the horizon. So coming to this business, I loved physical therapy. I loved what therapists could do. I could see the impact they had.
Mm-hmm.
I was a personal trainer and a strength coach at that time. So I understood working with clients and I understood helping adults. That was my target demographic. But I was like, these people need more than what a strength coach, personal trainer can deliver. They need physical therapy. And not being a physical therapist gave me the freedom to say, okay, what is the experience I want to develop for my client?
Mm-hmm.
How do I find the best of the therapist? How do I compensate them appropriately for what they're doing? How do I build a patient care experience without any restrictions? Because if I wanted, I could bring in an LMT. I can bring in an ATC, a personal trainer, a PT, an OT, a SLP. And so it kind of gave me the freedom, knowing that I wasn't going to be in the clinic treating patients,
Mm-hmm.
to create and build the ultimate patient care experience. And that's really what we've always done. Even today, fast forward 25 years, my objective today is never to be in a situation where I'm looking at that clock for 3 more minutes to make one more billable CPT code available. I don't want to be dependent on insurance reimbursement. Now, we're an insurance-based clinic. We contract with all third-party payers. I teach how to bill and work with Medicare. Like, that's a big part of it. But we monetize those minutes in different ways. And we'll talk about social media and affiliate marketing and sponsorships and
Mm-hmm.
all of these other ways to take really the magic that's in a clinician's head and put a price tag on it and allow other companies to pay for that time.
Love it. I love it. And so let's talk a little bit about that. In terms of your Medicare billing expertise, and like I said, you've got that YouTube channel about Medicare billing for PTOT speech, right? So why did you start that channel?
I love teaching. I think most clinicians, we come at this from a couple perspectives. We either love helping people. We love the feeling of that patient walking in the door and be like, I don't know what you did, but you made me feel amazing. How do we do it again? I realized pretty quickly, like, as much as I love helping people, if I help patients, I'm only going to help a handful. But if I help therapists, those therapists will help hundreds or thousands of patients. My big impact can come from helping clinicians. So I was like, all right, I like YouTube. I'm doing video. I was doing my total knee replacement channel anyway. So I was like, I'm just going to start putting out free content on YouTube. I had already been monetized, I think, on my knee replacement channel. So I understood that I can make money just putting free content out there.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty quickly, like, you get in a Facebook group, you see a question, you answer the question, you record that answer. Now that is a piece of digital real estate that will just last in perpetuity. I've got videos on YouTube 5 years ago, 6 years ago that are still generating ad revenue, still generating affiliate income. But the peer-to-peer social media, it's really just my chance to say, hey, I'm never going to teach a therapist how to be a better clinician,
Mm-hmm.
but I can teach you how to run a better business or look at things differently. And that's my objective on that channel, is to say we don't have to do the way things have always been done.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it different.
I love that. I got in the same boat there where I felt like I could make a bigger impact and help more of the profession by helping other clinics run their businesses better through marketing, right? And so that's exactly my passion for helping clinicians that way, to expand and get the name out there, change the perception of the public, right? For PTOT and speech there. And I love what you're kind of doing the same, but helping them through the insurance side of it, right? Through the Medicare side of it. So you have a lot of content on there, but is there like one thing that every PTOT should know about Medicare billing?
I think the hardest thing that we went through as a young practice, now we're going pre-social media. early 2000s, there was no real resource out there. There was no easy place to get information. And so obviously you don't want to get business information, compliance information from Facebook or social media, but at the same time, it will connect you with the right people. And so the big takeaway message here is, like, anytime I share information, I always have cited resources and references. It always comes straight from CMS manuals. But the idea is, you can access anyone watching this. You can access the best minds in any specialty, from compliance to regulation to business and marketing and all that stuff. Use social media to make those connections, start to build those relationships. You know, you reached out to me. I've known about you since before you started practice promotions, and the idea is, now we're talking. Now we have this connection. That's the real power behind social media.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said earlier, where you talked about, you have to use different channels for different purposes, right? And so sometimes we might just focus on Instagram, right? And we think that that's like our main channel, but you've really built that niche within YouTube. And one of the comments that you said was that you can put a video up there and people will come back to it years later, right? And it still keeps going there. Whereas a lot of times on, Facebook or Instagram, you'll even on your page or whatever, will just go to the bottom, right? No one will ever go to the bottom. So you have to keep producing the content really, really a lot of times. So in terms of the Medicare billing part of it, I would imagine, as you've probably worked with a lot of clinics, do you see clinics that are really not billing correctly, not leveraging Medicare the way that they should, even though they're delivering those kind of services?
Yeah, every single day. It's one of those things where you see a lot of misinformation. You see a lot of ideas that were developed from, I worked at this place and this place did it this way. Well, that doesn't mean anything. And it's, as I dug deeper into this, my ideas about Medicare completely changed, and even if you follow my media over the years, my opinions have changed, my positions have changed. Today, there's a lot of conversation about cash pay physical therapy and what can you do in the situation where you have a Medicare beneficiary who wants to pay for cash-based services. These are conversations that should not be hidden behind paywalls. They should be out in the public. They should be teased and discussed and brought out. And I always say, look, you can go to the Medicare guidelines. You can go to CMS Chapter 15. You can go to Section 220. You can go to this specific page in this specific sentence. A great example, Medicare clearly says we do not pay for golf, for tennis, for recreational activities. Well, if I'm a cash-based provider and I've got this client coming to me who is, a very healthy, adult geriatric, high net worth individual, they're scheduling a trip to Pebble Beach and they're going to golf and they want to feel the best that they can, that's not a covered service in any world. If you don't know that you have the ability to see that person on a self-pay basis, you're handcuffed. You can't make business decisions. And so I think for too long that information has been hidden behind paywalls, consultants and lawyers and all this crazy stuff. So I'm like, look, let's just have a conversation. I'll show you the resources that I'm reading. They're out there public. There's no cost to finding them. And then you can make the decision for yourself. My job isn't to tell you what to do and what not to do. It's to say, look, here's some information. Do your research now. You decide how you're going to handle this. But I do think for way too many years, we've been in the mindset of, well, patients don't want to pay. Patients will only do what insurance pays for. I want this so bad for my patient. I'm going to sneak it in through the Medicare guideline, even though it's probably not a covered service. Those days are done because Medicare doesn't pay us enough to do that sustainably anymore.
Or the risk of it, right? The risk of the audits or anything like that. Yeah. And that's interesting you brought that up, because there is such a huge market potential there for the rehab profession to really tap into, is those people that want those health and wellness services that aren't necessarily covered in some of the specifications of Medicare, right? And that's a great example with golf performance or tennis performance or anything like that, right? But there's a lot of opportunity there, and I would imagine that you might see owners that might hamstring themselves or kind of be fearful because they think that they might be doing something wrong against Medicare guidelines, but
Right.
they just don't know, right?
Yeah, I look at your websites and I look at the photos and they're so aspirational and they're so exciting and like they make you feel like you could do anything at any age. And the truth is, most of that is not a covered benefit under Medicare. Or if it is, it's only a covered benefit for a very short time.
Mhm.
And so we have this conflict within the clinician. The therapist wants to invest more. The therapist wants to be better. They want to pay for technology. They want to pay for education. But then they don't want to charge the client, the consumer, who really is capable and willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't burn the candle at both ends. You have to be able to monetize the investments you're making.
Hmm. And there's so much that we want, those people want beyond
Yes.
if they came in for an injury or a pain or something like that. I see very successful clinics that are taking those patients into wellness programs, right? Because I remember so many times treating patients where you get somebody better and then you're like, okay, well, we don't really have anything for you here, but go to the gym,
Right.
I recommend this personal trainer. Why aren't we doing that ourselves, right? There's a lot that we can do to help our patients continue on and prevent future injuries and problems, right?
Yeah, especially that person carved out 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week, you know, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10. They're coming to work on themselves. They're coming to make themselves better. Now you're 3, 4, 5 weeks in and you're like, okay, you're done. Get out of here. Like, what business in the world would take somebody who loves the product, loves the service, loves the people, wants to be part of the community, and kicks them out? Like,
Yeah.
it's the craziest, most backward thing. But I talk to therapists every day who think, oh, well, you know, it's our objective, it's our responsibility to get them well and get them out. The quicker I can discharge them, the better of a therapist I am. And I just don't think that's where a lot of us want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely not true, right? And there's so much that we can work beyond because we think, because maybe they're out of pain or, they have some improvement in their range of motion, they're functional, whatever it may be, they're done. No, do they have full range of motion? Do they have full strength? Do they have the proprioception? Like all those kind of things, right? So there's lots of opportunities there. So, Tony, you also you've been speaking to other clinics and providing advice for the Medicare billing side, but you've also really built your online presence here for YouTube, especially, and you have so many followers for your clinic and your channel. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And it's a total knee replacement specific page, correct?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, you know, I came out of strength and conditioning. I just love fitness. And so even though I eventually became a physical therapist, my roots still go back to, I just think people need to move. We need to eat better. We need to get a little sunlight on our skin. We need to exercise and like find a purpose in life. I don't care what technique or intervention or strategy. You could be a manual therapist, an exercise therapist, whatever. The bottom line is people just need to improve themselves, get healthy, move more. And so I was looking at kind of different areas of specialty. And for a while, when I would open a new clinic, I'd look for where's the demand? Where do I need to fill the gap? And so we did chronic pain, we did fibromyalgia, we did post-surgical stuff. But I always came back to total knee. And I felt like I had an approach to total knee that was a little bit different from everybody else. And so I was like, you know what? These patients never cancel. Like they literally had their leg cut off and sewn back on. They're not going to cancel to go to a hair appointment. These are people that have high urgency. They've met their out-of-pocket max. So insurance is paying the full amount. There's no copay co-insurance most of the time. I'm like, this is a dream client and they're easy to treat. They don't need a lot of specialized equipment. They're not like 20-year-old athletes who need bumper plates and heavy weight. Like this is my ideal demographic. So I started to produce content. I looked at what's already on YouTube. I hear all these. The main video that popped for me was sleeping positions. Everybody wants to say you have to sleep on your back, you have to elevate your leg, you have to keep your leg straight. I'm like, what about all the patients with spinal stenosis? What about the patient that has full knee range of motion? Why do they still have to sleep on their back? They don't have to. So that was always my approach with YouTube. I put a couple videos out there. It started to resonate. People started to watch.
Hmm.
And then I realized that it was opening doors. People were coming to me from Arizona and Michigan and all these different areas. I started to get offers from product companies that wanted me to do videos for their products, and we would do affiliate arrangements.
Hmm.
It was just incredible. And then I quickly realized I can spend an hour with a patient. I'm going to get $100 from Medicare. I'm never going to make another penny for that hour of my life that I'm never going to get back.
Hmm.
But if I record pieces of that, that could help anyone anywhere in the world. I record a piece of me telling that patient about their water resistant dressing and what to do for that. That little clip will continue to make money for me for decades because that's not going to change. And so that's what really made me double down on YouTube and YouTube over the other platforms.
Hmm.
It's a library. Those videos keep resurfacing. They keep making money. I do all the platforms, but YouTube is really my baby.
The top 10% of PT owners aren't just surviving, they're thriving. But what's their secret? Well, Neil Trickett's new Market to Grow book reveals how the top 10% of PT practices leverage marketing systems to simultaneously grow their new patients, attract top talent, and boost profit in their practice. You can learn from their secrets. Visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free copy of Market to Grow. Yes, you heard that right. We are shipping a free copy of Market to Grow to all podcast listeners who want it. Just visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free book. And now back to the show.
Gotcha. And that's YouTube monetizing you back for people watching those videos, right?
So YouTube pays through their partnership program. 55% of all the ad revenue comes to me. YouTube sells the ads, and they gave me 55% of that revenue. YouTube has an affiliate program, so if somebody sees a product, I use it in the clinic, they click and buy that product, I get a percentage of that affiliate income. But then also YouTube is where product companies are going, and they're like, hey, I saw this video of yours, I love it, can you make a video for me? Sure, $500, 3-minute unboxing video. $300 for a 30-second short. Like, whatever you want to do, if it's a product I like, I will make that video. But again, that generates revenue that I wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I love what you did there too. You really looked at niching down. And from a marketing perspective, this is where we can sometimes make mistakes in a practice because we think we can if we just treat everybody, we'll get a bigger audience, we'll grow a bigger business. But the reality is that the more you niche down, the more people actually are attracted to you. And you're total proof of that because you took one thing that is very common, right? And you could go all kinds of post-surgical and make it post-surgical, but you even went further down and made it about total knees.
Yeah.
And that replacement. But that made you the authority, right? The expert in total knee replacements rehab. And obviously you've got followers and you've been able to monetize that. And how's that impacted your business, your practice?
That's the funniest part. If you look at my caseload that's out there, I probably don't even have 7% of my caseload being patients who had a total knee replacement. Mm-hmm. We still have post-surgical rotator cuff repair, persistent low back pain, ankle sprains, malleolar fracture. Like, we still have everything. Now, we don't do any neuro, we don't do any pediatric, we don't do any amputee. We refer tons of stuff out. Mm-hmm. But what this did was, like you said, it established me as an expert. And it's only because I said, hey, I'm going to put videos. I am not an expert. I guarantee every listener right now watching this, they are probably better than me at treating a total knee replacement. But nobody else was putting out videos. Now there's a couple kind of coming out, and they're doing great. Mm-hmm. But what it does is I average about 1 million views a month on YouTube, all organic, all free. I do about 1 million views a month on my Facebook business page. All organic, all free. TikTok, 500,000 views. Instagram, 500,000 views. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn is growing. So this is one of those deals where if I had to pay for that attention, I couldn't afford to pay for that. Yeah. It also gives me the opportunity to see what's working. You know, for a while, these kinds of videos are working, so I doubled down on those videos, and then things change a little bit. I looked at your YouTube channel. Two of your best videos right now are both marketing videos, but very specific videos. Like, I would see that, and then I would just double down and make 2, 3, 4, 5 more videos on that related topic, because I knew somebody who has a question about that is going to want to see more videos on that topic.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I do see more PTs out there, doing what you do, but not for needs, for all kinds of other things. It would be sports performance or whatever like that. But I think that's part of the future too, like that you can with your practice, even if you're just within your community, just being able to, like you were talking about, put your expertise from your head and show that to the world and build that online brand, right? Build that online voice. And I'm curious from your perspective, have you focused more on your personal brand of doing this, or like your business brand?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you would have caught me in mid 2005, 2006, I would have been like, do not put your name out there. Do not say you're, Anthony Maritato, Tony Maritato, nothing. It's all Total Therapy Solutions. And we even chose the name Total Therapy Solutions because it was broad, it was general, it was generic. We could go any direction we wanted. Now, like, every piece of content is me. Everything is branded to me, yet I don't hardly see any patients that walk in the door. My team sees all the patients, and so I thought that was going to be a problem. And I think it used to be a problem back in the early 2000s. Doctors would be like, go see Tony. Tony is the best therapist. And patients would want to see Tony. I didn't want that because that tied me to the business. But now it seems like patients don't care. They come in, they understand this is the experience. And we have not had any issues with somebody coming in wanting to see me in particular, and even from an evaluation perspective, I do my evaluations very, very differently than I used to do them 15, 20 years ago. But right out of the gate, my team is working with the patient, from the start.
That's fantastic. And I think that just proves the point of that you can promote your personal brand, and that's much more powerful than your business brand, actually, right? Because people resonate with people, not with companies.
And today more than ever, people want to know who is the person behind this. Even if I'm not working with you, what is Neil like? What kind of personality is he? Is he a jokey guy, or is he a drill sergeant kind of guy? Like, these are the things that they want to know. And patients are so fearful. They're already in pain. The injections didn't work. The medications didn't work. Maybe surgery is not an option for them. And now you're telling them, the doctor is telling them, go exercise. Like, you can't do that. And then they're going to go into some place where they've never seen anybody. They don't know who it is. They don't know what they're going to do. Like, they're completely in shell shock. But if you can start putting that content out there, I can't even tell you how many patients come in and they're like, oh, I watched all your videos. You helped me so much. That was amazing. And I've never talked to them in my life, but they are so bought in. I could tell them to do anything, and they're ready to do it, willing to do it.
And that makes for a much better patient experience, plus compliance, less patient dropout, all those positive things that come from that trust factor before they even come in the clinic.
My outcomes are through the roof, not because I have some special technique, but because they have convinced themselves that we are the practice to get them better. I didn't have to do anything.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think for patients, like, you have to, if you're trying to engineer growth in your practice, you really have to look at what is the patient buying behavior that you're trying to create, right? And if we look at today's world, people just go online and they look for free advice first. So that person with the total knee, they're gonna look something specific for my total knee. I'm having this kind of pain, and they'll put that in Chat GPT even, right? And then guess what? If you have a lot of content out there and you have specific channels that are about that particular problem, and you're talking about it a lot, you're going to pop up for those kind of searches. And then, like, that's great to hear that patients watch so much of your content before they ever probably even reach out to you. So they've already bought in, they're ready to go, and it makes for a much better outcome. overall.
Before we started recording, you and I were talking about SEO and AI SEO, and I'm an old time SEO geek. Like I researched and read and started. I was like, who reads a blog? Nobody reads a blog. Oh, I'm doing a blog article for SEO, so I rank higher in Google. But even now, like I use Google a fraction of how much I use ChatGPT. I'm showing up in ChatGPT. I'm showing up as a reference for certain questions. I'm showing up with links directly to my YouTube videos, so where I spent a lot of time and effort optimizing for Google search, now ChatGPT and the other AI platforms, they're delivering my content as much or more than Google is in some cases.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're what they really do is they just scrape the
Yeah.
internet, right? They just scrape Google and other search engines and other things online and then kind of put it together and index it and serve it up. So if you have the search capabilities, if you have the the YouTube channels and it looks at all those kind of corresponding data and then it says, hey, this is probably the most relevant for this person's search around total needs, right? And then you pop up for that. So I'm curious, Tony, I'm curious about your experience starting to do the videos. Like, how long did it take you to get traction? I'm curious, like, what was that journey like?
So I always say, like, I'm a good example of the average person. There are tons of therapists that started way after me and blew way past me. It's one of those things where, I always kind of had the hobby of photography. I enjoyed taking pictures. And then I remember, like, I can't remember the device, maybe Flip or something like that. There was a little handheld camera. If I go onto the archives of my YouTube channels, it goes back to like 2006, 2007, family videos and things like that. So I always just played around with it. 2017, I think, is where I started to look at it as like, hey, I want to start getting more involved. I want to start putting out more content. 2019, one of my videos started gaining some traction. It showed me kind of proof of concept. This can be something real. And then from 2020 on, it was just, I am going to take this serious. What do I do? Now, that being said, I still do everything on my phone. It's a 12 Max Pro. It's not a new phone. I record content pretty much every day. And even from, the mid 2000s, my idea was I have a hard time speaking to the camera. I get, tense in the lips and I get saliva in the corners of my mouth and I forget everything I'm going to say. So I was like, how can I make this work? So what I would do, and this is a great tip for your audience, if you haven't been doing it yet, I would get a selfie stick. I'd set my camera up facing me. So it's recording me, not my patient. And I would just hit record. And I would record what I tell my patient when they ask me a question that 1,000 other patients have asked. And as I did that, then sometimes I would just hold my phone. I was doing it this morning and I'm recording while I'm talking to my patient. And now for home exercise programs, and I know a lot of therapists do this. You either use the patient's phone or you use your phone. You have to do it HIPAA compliant and there's regulations around it. But you record what you tell the patient while the patient is doing the exercise. Now I shoot them that while they're in the clinic and that's their home program. You can roll RTM into it. You can do a lot of other things with it. But the point being is it doesn't take a whole lot. Like Gary Vee says, document, don't create. I'm not creating Mr. Beast style videos. I'm capturing little moments in the clinic all day long, and then I'm sharing those little moments with the appropriate HIPAA compliant consent forms in place. And my patients go crazy about it. They love it. Everybody wants to be a celebrity. And so I make them look great. I show their achievements. I show their challenges, and they're overcoming those challenges. Like that is, I think, a big part of what makes the content resonate so well with the audience.
Yeah, you make it real. And we find exactly that when we're working with clients, the ones that put the effort into capturing the pictures, the videography from within the clinic and telling the real patient stories and showing like the experience of coming there, they do phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I imagine your videos do the same because you're seeing real people, right? And yes, there is processes for making sure things are HIPAA compliant, all that, making sure things are signed off, but you can do it. Right? It's not like a big not like a big issue. You can just get some compliance there and shoot with some patients. And I love what you're saying there, that you don't have to make it complicated, right? You just do it. Just start.
So I just shared publicly on Learn Medicare Billing a video of me showing, like, it was an 11-minute video where I went through, I grabbed a little clip that I had on my phone, threw it into CapCut, threw some captions on it, cut out a couple spots, and did a voiceover. I uploaded it to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok, to YouTube, to Pinterest. I had ChatGPT generate the copy that I was going to use in the post.
Mhm.
And literally in 11 minutes from start to finish, including my explanation in the video of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, I hit it across all the platforms. Now, I could probably do it quicker if I wasn't explaining it, but to your point, like, it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think the less production you put in, the more authentic it is. That's what people want to see. At least that's what's been growing all of my channels over the last few years.
That's awesome. So curious, do you have anybody like that helps you with production at all? You do everything yourself?
Yeah, I do it all myself. I mean,
Hmm.
I should. This is where we don't take our own advice. Again, I look at your stuff, amazing, off the charts, high production quality, like really, really great. I should be putting more money and time into production, but I don't. It's one of those things that I still probably keep too close to me, and because of that, I'm not at 300,000 subscribers. I'm at 70,000 subscribers, but it's good enough for what it does for me right now.
Yeah, and you've been very successful with what you've done, and I think that shows the capabilities of you can be very successful without a lot of production budget and expensive equipment to do all these kind of things. You can keep it simple, and the goal is just to get the content done and get it out there, and it doesn't have to take a long time.
Yeah.
That's really the key thing. You can go beyond there, right? And certainly, I think as you get a larger business, people expect a more polished, professional, branded, videography and production and all this kind of other stuff here. But even some of the big, gurus out there, they make it look very casual.
Yeah.
They do have some production help and stuff in the background to make it, it's a little fancy, but um, the keeping it real, right, is
Yeah.
where people want to see things today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just curious on your end, do you have any particular business experts that you like to follow in the PT industry?
In the PT industry, no. Like, I've got buddies and we're all friends, and you see all the names out there, but really I think we're inundated with opinions in PT. We don't need any more. I tell you, I spend all of my free time on social media outside of PT, but still within business.
Okay.
So, like, there's the big names, like everybody loves and knows Seth Godin,
Mhm.
Alex Hermosi. These are people that got me thinking about business in different ways. Rory Sutherland, he's a big marketing guy. Love his ideas, love his concepts. And then, I know you were going to mention books. Like, there's the old time classics. Everybody should have read E-Myth Revisited, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But the idea for me is always, I don't want to create the same PT business that everybody else has, because truthfully, they're not doing that great.
Mhm.
Compared to Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Facebook, PT profit margins aren't where they need to be. So I want to look outside the PT profession. I want to
Mhm.
break away from the dogma that is our profession. And I want to see what other models are working. And I love to take, okay, if Costco created a physical therapy business where all of their revenue and profit came from a membership and they gave the service away almost at cost, what would that look like?
Mhm.
If I wanted to take the best lessons from McDonald's and own all the real estate and franchise the business delivery, what would that look like? What would last one, airplane model? So if I'm not going to give away free TheraBand and free this and free that, but I'm actually going to charge like airlines do today, what does that look like? Like, why would I give a 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday appointment away for the same price as a Tuesday, Thursday, 2 p.m. appointment that nobody wants.
Hmm.
Like there should be dynamic pricing based on time and urgency. We don't use any of those models in our business.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, wow. You can look. I look a lot beyond too, like the industry, and I could just see, in PT having the Costco model, having a hot dog while you work out.
Yeah.
But no, I mean that makes total sense. And you got to look at what's successful and really in that customer business relationship, and how can we incorporate that into our models. And again, I just see this inflection point where we are, where there's a lot of the business that is starting to branch out into lots of other areas, cash models, things like that, hybrid models of insurance and cash. And I'm just curious on your end. I know that you work with a lot of insurance. Do you have other cash services that you offer?
Yeah, so I think when you're a small entrepreneur like us, you do want to kind of play to your personal strengths. I mean, in
Hmm.
a big business world, you're going to have a CEO and a CFO and all these other people that are professionals. Here, we're still doing this as a lifestyle business. So if I wanted to go the cash route, and I wanted to get into that, 250 a session, 300 a session, something like that, it could be done, but that doesn't play to my strengths.
Hmm.
I tend to like a low cost, high efficiency model. So for me, of course, we have self-pay offers. I do a thing where I'm like, look, if you're from out of the area, you saw my YouTube videos, you want me to kind of take a look at things for your knee replacement, it's a $500 session. You can come in, I'll give you a plan of care, I'll do the evaluation. I will be the person you're with. I'm not guaranteeing how many minutes. I'm just saying I will be the one that does it, but it's a one-time $500 deal.
Hmm.
We brought in some technology. We have SoftWave, we have NewFit, we have a couple other devices, the Biodex Rehab, Reactive Step Trainer. Those are things that I put a price tag on for cash pay, and people can come in and use that stuff.
Hmm.
But in my heart, I don't like that kind of business. I feel that the expectation to exceed the price is too high, and I don't want to be held accountable for that. So
Hmm.
I've gone the other way. I said, okay, how do I bring the price to zero? How do I let other businesses, and that's where YouTube and product companies, I'm like, look, I've got a video right now on YouTube. It shows a lift chair. It's actually a bathtub lift chair that I use for fall recovery. It's generated thousands of dollars already. And so I got paid for the Medicare visit of me working with that patient, but really the money came from the YouTube, the affiliate, and the other stuff. That's where I want to make my money. And I've shared this idea before where I was like, why aren't we effectively televising every single patient interaction?
Hmm.
What if a young therapist in New York wants to see me do a knee replacement of valve? They'll pay $20. So what if 100 young therapists want to see me do a new patient total knee eval? They'll pay $20 each. And I could monetize that hour of time in ways that I never could have done before.
Yeah.
That's what works best for me. Yes, we have cash services. Yes, we do technology. I don't think that's the future for my business. The
Hmm.
future for my business is media.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. I love that you're thinking so outside the box there, and obviously being very successful with it. So Tony, what's a great way for our audience to follow you, understand more about what you do?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. I'm 50 this year. Facebook is my platform of choice. Just look for me under Anthony Maritato. I've got my Learn Medicare Billing channel on YouTube. But at the end of the day, we all do this because we enjoy what we're doing. We
Mhm.
enjoy helping patients. We enjoy talking to other therapists. We enjoy sharing ideas. And so I appreciate you giving me the chance to kind of share some ideas and perspectives. And anybody who wants to, find me, that's the best way to get me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tony, so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and all your success there, and helping us understand what's capable to build that online brand voice and take your practice not just within your community, but national or even international. So
Yeah.
congratulations on your success there. And to all our listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast as well as to our YouTube channel so that you can get more marketing tips and advice from successful people like Tony. And then don't forget to go to practicepromotions.net where you can get our free Market to Grow book, as well as all of our great downloads to help your practice grow. So this is Neil Trickett from the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in your practice.
Thanks, Neil.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to Ratings and Review on your phone and click Write a Review. Thanks.